Hey everyone, welcome to D20 Woodworking, and today we are talking all things X-Men. We're talking Mutant Genesis, we're talking Cyclops, we're talking Phoenix, we're talking Mojo Mania, but it's not just me talking about this time, right? You all have heard my opinions on pretty much all of these things, but I decided to invite over my friend Maurice Andrews Jr. He has his own YouTube page, you can go check it out, but I invited him over to talk with me about all these things, get our initial thoughts and impressions on what we're thinking, what we're feeling. But before we get to the video, before we start, do me a huge favor. Scroll down a little bit, hit subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. Let me know if there's other people in the future you want me to interview. Let me know if you want to see more content like this. And also down in the description, I'll link to Maurice's channel if you want to go over there and support him. I know he would appreciate it. I would appreciate it. And I really hope you enjoy this, this conversation. All right. Well, Maurice, thank you for being here. How are you today, man?
Oh, it's a good day, man. We got a lot of good news with from Fantasy Flight with what's coming up from Marvel Champions. So there's a lot to talk about, bro. So I'm excited.
Yeah,
How are
man.
you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. But so I'm up in the Northeast and we've been having a heat wave for the past like 4 days of just like 100-degree weather, and it's finally done. So it's a good day. It's a good day. I'm done with heat. I hate heat so much.
What's crazy is I'm from Texas and I moved to Idaho,
Okay.
and I actually love the heat and hate the cold, and I moved to the wrong place for that. Regretting my decision, but it is what it is.
I hear they have good potatoes though. Is that true?
They do actually.
They actually do.
It's kind of
The
crazy.
stereotype lives on. Oh my god, that's fantastic. All right, man. So, like you said, we have a lot to talk about today, right? We have a lot to go over. So, I guess let's jump right into this. In a previous video, I had talked about my thoughts of Mutant Genesis, and I referenced your video on it because I believe you are a more upbeat, positive human being than I am. I am not that at all. So that's why I'm excited to get your thoughts. I guess let's jump right into it, right? What are your initial thoughts when you first heard the release of Mutant Genesis?
Oh yeah, I think the community spoke for itself. Like everybody loves X-Men, right?
Hmm.
I think that the '90s cartoon was phenomenal. I think there's if you look at the age range of people that play Marvel Champions, I mean, it kind of wax and wane in terms of how young and old you get. But I think Marvel Champions cater to the older crowd. I'm
Yep.
31, and I consider myself like one of the young guns
Yeah,
of
you, me,
the
man.
the
We're the
of
young
the
people.
the yeah, and which is kind of crazy. Which means that the average person, if they didn't watch the '90s cartoon,
Mhm.
they were heavy in the comics, right?
Right.
So you get the fervor of the comic the people that are into the comics. You got the fervor of the people that were in the '90s X-Men cartoons, and then you got the fervor of people that have loved the movies,
Hmm.
right? So you got this wide range of people that are excited for anything X-Men, because that's all that we've gotten were either comics, the TV show, or the movies. And
Hmm.
there's some games here and there, but I think that this gives an opportunity for something so popular within the board game realm to be able to experience X-Men. And I don't know how many cycles they're going for, but at this point, we'll take what we can. So I'm happy. My favorite X-Men is in it, so I'm all for it, man.
Yeah, yo, mine too. I think we have slightly different favorites, and I think we will cover both of them shortly. But yes, I will say that too because that was the big thing. Like, I never was that big in the '90s comic, or I'm sorry, the '90s cartoon show. But the movies, I feel like that was the first like real superhero movie that I saw. Maybe except for Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, that where I was like, this is actually good, right? Like, this is actually like interesting and fun, you know?
That was Blade for me.
Oh, Blade was a good one too. Yeah. Though I don't know if I ever saw the second or third one. Did it get better after the first one?
The second one was good. The third one was okay.
Ah, okay, okay.
But I mean Ryan Reynolds, so you roll with what you get.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. So, all right. So let's talk about these heroes, right? Colossus and Kitty Pryde. I guess. Well, let's start. Well, either or. We could start with both. But I'll say I'll be the negative Nancy right off the bat because I was the one that saw Colossus and saw Kitty Pryde and yawned. And I've gotten in trouble on this. I've gotten in trouble on Reddit. I've gotten in trouble on Facebook because I share my thoughts. And I said, look, I like the idea that Colossus has two tough status cards, right? That's something different at least, but he's just using it as a resource. Kitty, Vision, right? We've kind of had this already with Vision, in my opinion. That's kind of what it looks like. Now, again, I've been wrong a lot of times with this game. They might actually be super amazing, and I just don't know it. But what do you think? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I'm actually way more excited for Colossus than I am Kitty Pryde.
Okay.
So he fits that 14 HP mode,
Mm,
where if you're 14 or up, you probably got a 3 or 4 hand size on the hero side, and then the alter ego is what it is.
yeah.
But I think with him, he's got some phenomenal upgrades, and I think that's what separates him from the other 14, 15 hit point heroes, is that his upgrades are phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's where he's going to shine. And of course, I'm a huge upgrades kind of person. So the more
Mm,
cards on the table, the happier I am. But with him, because his mechanic is not something that's new to the game.
right.
We've seen this with, well, I guess relatively new, because we've seen this with Armadillo, right? With
Mm,
that came with Nova. So with Nova, excuse me, with Armadillo, he is just stacked. I don't think that he has had a had a limit. So you just had to peg him up until you just had to peg damage off of him up
mm,
until he had no more tough, and then take him out. I think the beautiful thing is that he only had 8 HP.
yeah.
So, once you get through those toughs, he was relatively easy to take out. But to go back to Colossus, yeah, I'm loving his kit right now. I think he's going to be fun. He's kind of hulkish in
Mm,
terms of where he decides to do his damage is going to be crazy. I think he's going to put up Hulk level numbers when it comes to damage dealt. But it's going to be kind of flipping back and forth with him, which I don't care for. But I think that he has that one card that's a 0 cost that allows him to switch from alter ego to hero
yeah,
form
that one's a
when
cool.
the villain. Oh yeah, I'm all for it,
Yeah, yeah.
man. So I'm excited to play him in either aggression or protection. He's gonna be so much fun.
Mm,
With Kitty Pride, I'm right along the same lines as you. I think that she's just like Vision. She had a couple of cool tricks that I thought were interesting. She's unique enough to where you
mm,
can distinguish her, but it's at this point comparing her to Vision, I think you're splitting hairs. But I don't know that she will be as strong as Vision though.
mm.
So I'm so whenever certain heroes come out, I like to label them as I'm going to get them straight to the table, or I'm going to let the community figure them out and not see if I really want them. Right. So that's
Yeah.
where I'm at with Kitty Pride. But those are my thoughts on them too. I'm super excited for Colossus, Kitty Pride. Um, Maybe the community will come up with something that'll make me interested in her, but I'll get her just because. Well, I guess she comes with the box, so
Well,
I guess
yeah,
I
you
gotta
got it.
get
Yeah, yeah. And they're gonna shove it down your throat, so you're getting one way or the
her.
other.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, okay, I think you are right with Colossus, right? Colossus is the more interesting hero of the two. I
Oh,
100% agree.
100%.
I agree with the upgrades. It's so funny too because I think we've talked about this in the Discord where we compare everything to Hulk, right? Like all these like 14 HP, heroes. We're just like, this is what Hulk should have been. Like this is what it should have been, and every single time. So that kind of gets me a little bit excited because I like Hulk so much, and I want to see what he could have been. I will say for Kitty because I'm trying to be a more optimistic person that my thing with Vision is that Vision is basically how powerful can you make Vivian, right? Like he like I think he lives and dies by his signature ally Vivian. Where I'm hoping that Kitty at least can stand on her own, right? Maybe that's her difference, right? She stands on her own. She doesn't rely on a Vivian type ally and can do some stuff. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's the difference. I don't know. We'll see. So.
Ooh, I didn't even think about that because I actually think Vision is strong without Vivian. I
Mm,
think that she's a really good card. I mean, a good ally. Well, you can argue one of the better signature allies.
right, right.
So I'm sitting here struggling trying to think if Kitty Pryde even had a signature ally.
I
But
don't think they
anyways,
announced it yet. No, I don't.
yeah. So I think depending on what that turns out to be, uh, yeah, I just think Vision is just crazy strong. But
Mhm.
I only played a few games with him. and I won't say I figured him out, but I see how strong he can be, and it just doesn't excite me. So I have that kind of sour
Yeah.
taste in my mouth looking at what Kitty Pryde can do. But maybe her form changing now that I'm much more willing to play somebody like Spectrum. Maybe she would be more inviting now, where I'll be like, oh, okay, maybe she's kind of in between those two, and maybe her interactions with the villain may be more interesting than what Vision had to offer.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get you there. That's a talk we're going to have one day is talking about Spectrum, because I used to be hot for Spectrum. I loved her. And I had like 5 terrible games in a row and I've sworn her off. It's just so bad. I'm such a petty person. I really am. so so quick sidebar, like legit. So
That's crazy.
I told you before we started recording that I did my 35 ranked Marvel Champions Heroes, and Spectrum
Yeah.
was coming pretty low on the list. I was like, oh, I feel so bad for her because I used to love her
Wow.
so much, and I was like, nah, you made me lose 5 times in a row. I'm done with you.
That's crazy.
Uh,
Where's Hulk at? Actually, have you dropped this video yet?
no,
Maybe
soon,
I'm just late to the. Oh, okay,
soon,
cool.
soon, soon,
I
soon.
can't wait to see where Hulk drops in, man.
Hulk is modest. I think Hulk is modest. I like Hulk.
Oh,
I am a defender of Hulk. He is my second most played hero. I like him a lot because I love punishing myself and, seeing how that goes.
he's an interesting puzzle. He's
He
an
is.
interesting puzzle.
He is. One day we'll be able to solve it. Not today, but one day.
Hey, shout out to Spider Suit. She helped out.
Yeah, right? All right. So let's jump into some of these villains, right? Let's go through these villains, because as much as I was not super excited about the heroes, I was less so about the villains, to say the least. So let's run through them. I was starting off last time, so I'll let you start off this time. Let's run through them. Starting with
Okay.
Sabretooth. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so we kind of discussed right when we started right when we started the well, I guess right before we started, we
Mhm.
kind of talked about Sabretooth, and I kind of compared him to the tower defense from Mad Titan Shadow, but with Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight.
Mhm.
But with Sabretooth's regenerative power, I think that that's such an interesting uh
Mm.
puzzle to figure out, because you're going to have to calculate depending on how it actually works. um you may have to calculate how much damage you can do to him, or how much are you just willing to sacrifice him going back up to full health to build up to be able to do more damage. It kind of reminds me of that give and take factor that Venom had
Mhm.
from the Sinister Motives, where it's like, man, I could do 10 damage to him right now, but that bad boy gonna end up with like 3 boost cards coming my
Yeah,
way,
right.
right? So with what's his name, with Sabretooth, I don't know if that's how it's gonna
Mhm.
play, but I think however they decide to do his regenerative mechanic, I think that's where Wolverine is going to fall into play. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see how it actually works. And with defending Robert Kelly, because they may have enough of a distinction
Mm.
between this and the tower defense to where it does feel like you're really trying to keep Sabretooth off this guy for whatever reason. So I think that with Sabretooth, I'm excited to see what it looks like. I won't say that, I'm as excited as I am for like Colossus, but
Mhm. Mhm.
it's one of those things where I'm trusting the creativity and the kind of this run that Fantasy Flight is on right now. So I'm like, you know what? They in a groove right now. I'm impressed with what I see with Colossus. I'm still kind of on the fence with Kitty Pryde, but I got faith that this will turn out to be something different enough from the tower defense that maybe it'll bring me into that favor of like, you know what, this is actually a pretty cool
Mhm.
scenario. So I'm excited to see what they do with that.
No, it's so funny when we were talking because I was praising Sabretooth. I was like, nah, this is super unique. This is completely different. And then you look at me and just say, no, it's tower defense. And I was like, I didn't even think of that. You're 100% right. Never been so wrong in my life. Um,
Hey man, but like, I want to hear what made you think that is so interesting, because it's maybe I'm not seeing it, and I don't know if you were at Gen Con or not, so
no,
I wasn't
no.
able to play it or wasn't able to see it. So maybe it is something, maybe he's tower defense mixed with what's his name? Thanos, where you just
Right.
slugging it out for 2 hours.
No, and I will say I agree with you with the healing aspect. I thought that was cool, right? I thought it was really cool to see that he can heal. I think that's interesting, unique. I think it's different. I will say, even if Robert Kelly is like the tower, I don't know about you, but my game is that tower. Like, I don't think it's ever burned down. Like, I've never really had that burned down. And Robert Kelly seems like he will go down faster than the tower will.
Yeah,
So at least there's more
and
threat
and,
with
and
that.
he can't be healed.
Right? Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So
That's another thing. Yeah, he
so
can't be healed.
I think there's that aspect of it. I like that it's just one main scheme and not two schemes I have to worry about, right? It's one main scheme where okay, you can't lose on it, but it just, it deals damage eventually. I like that mechanic because I do have to pay attention to that for a different reason. I felt like with tower defense, the one on the one side, I think it was the right side. I can kind of just let it go because it doesn't really like one more bad card or something like that. It's just like I'll figure that out. I'd rather worry about the thing that's
Right.
attacking me more, or whatever it was. But the one side I felt like I could just kind of ignore. The other side I felt like I couldn't. And I guess too, in the past, it usually feels like the first villain in most of the boxes isn't that impressive. Like there's nothing like really truly new with most of the first villains in the box. And this feels like the strongest first villain in any of the boxes I remember at least.
Yeah, I would argue what's his name is up there, Ebony Maw. Because
Every Mall's good, yeah.
his
Yeah.
his spells were just so like
That was
there's
cool.
nobody like him. So I give so in terms of uniqueness, I put Sabretooth up there with
Yeah.
Ebony Maw.
I agree with
Because
that.
they,
Yeah.
they definitely are pretty unique.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. So I guess that's how I was looking at it. It was just like the very first one. I was like, okay, this is cool. Like this is they're trying something. That's all I care about, right? I just want them to try new things. I want them to entertain me, just entertain me. And I felt like this was a good start for that. So,
Yeah.
all right. So moving on to Sentinels. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about these Sentinels?
Shoulder shrug, like that. This is the one I'm
Yeah,
the least excited for. I didn't see anything too crazy with it. I'm excited that we get to fight them. Um, Especially being terrorized by Sentinel in Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
yeah, yeah,
Once people figured him out, oh man, that's all that people ran in that game, man. But yeah, I don't see anything too crazy with it. Um, I think it's almost a just due to have them within the game.
yeah.
It's kind of like them putting out a box without having Magneto in it. Even if Apocalypse was the big bad,
Hmm.
at least have Magneto the one right before or something like that. So I think is I'll wait to see what happens. They haven't released too much information. I was going through reading it just now, and they've got
What,
a couple
six
of
cards?
cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, like maybe there's something that's different to this scene that I'm just not quite seeing yet, or that they just haven't released yet. But we'll see what happens when it comes out.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how I feel too. The only thing is this Operation Zero Tolerance thing, right? It's the forced side scheme that gets permanence in there. Where basically it's what is it? After the enemy attacks, it defeats an ally. Place the ally face down under this scheme. If there's X amount of cards, which for solo would be 3 or 4 total, you lose the game. Which to me is just it's the collector, right? I'm just playing the collector
Right.
again, slightly different. So this is the one of the first villains now where I'm just like, all right, I know this mechanic, I know what they're trying to do with it. It feels recycled. And as I was going through the first time reading this, when I saw that, I was like, all right, we've been here, done this type of thing. That's how I kind of felt with it. And you're right though. We only saw stage one. I have no idea what stage two brings. I have no idea what his cards are. Right? We have no idea what's going on with him. So it might be amazing
Yeah.
stuff. Who knows?
But I do think that that's interesting with allies because allies are so uh man, I won't say overpowered, but they're so favored in the
Yeah,
game
yeah.
because of what they bring to your hero. So whenever these guys are attacking, regardless if it's uh
Hmm.
minions or the villain, like you have to decide, like, all right, if I lose Nick Fury right here, can I beat this scenario without having Nick Fury, right? And so
Yeah,
it's not like you can go back and get them, like you could with Taskmaster or like the Collector, like they gone, like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so either this is looking at Hulk, this is where this
Yeah.
people like him can shine. He like, man, I don't need allies, man. I got 55 health. What's up? So
Well,
I'm
yeah.
excited to see how that goes.
And it's interesting too, because like I know, in general the community, I mean myself, I throw allies out there to do like a damage or two, right? And then they just take the big hit for me, right? Like
Right.
I don't want to get hit. But like if you're playing protection, like you should be able to do pretty well, it seems like, against this scenario. And I feel like every single box has an aspect that's really has an aspect that's really strong against it. And to me, I'm getting a lot of vibes that protection is going to be that aspect with this, not
Oh
with
yeah.
just that one, but also the next one after this. But just in general, that's my gut feeling. It might be completely wrong, but yeah, that's my only thing that I saw with Sentinels, was just that I got the vibes of collector, a little bit easier of a collector, but still collector vibes. So all right, Master Mold. We have him coming in. His big thing is that when Master Mold schemes against you, discard cards from the encounter deck until a Sentinel minion is discarded, and you put it into play. And each of the Sentinels gains guards. So right. So if you let him scheme, it's not good. Right. That seems to be the general gist of it. And I'm sure this card's going to force him to do it. It seems like a decent enough mechanic. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is man, because I hate to keep comparing it to things,
It's
but
the
it
best way
reminds
to
me of
do
Zola.
it.
It reminds me of Zola, right?
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
is this is Zola 2.0, and I'm okay with that because Zola, and I'm pretty sure the community will agree with me. Zola is one of the best
Mhm.
designed villains in the game. I
Yes.
think that his design works so well with who he is as a character and how terrible those mutants are that he creates. So I look at Master Mold, and him calling down Sentinels to
Yeah.
fight. Being Team Thor like this, bring them on, man. That's gonna make me so happy. So, yeah, I think this is gonna be cool, man. Like his upgrades to those Sentinels look a little nasty. So you really, if you're playing with somebody that's 9, 10 HP, you might be in a world of hurt
Yeah.
coming into this scenario. So I can kind of see where Colossus and Kitty Pryde may be, pretty good for this. Like
Hmm.
I think Galaxy's Most Wanted was kind of a outlier in terms of matching up heroes for that set.
Right.
But I think this one, these guys are definitely tailor made to it, to be able to deal with whatever it is that Master Mode is bringing to the table, which looks like just this influx of Sentinels that's coming in to do damage. So I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited to see how this works. I think it's just going to be this onslaught
Hmm.
of minions in your face all the time, and how are you going to get to master mode to keep them from winning?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely got Zola vibes from him, but hopefully a little bit better, because what's always killed me with Zola was retaliate, right? That you just can't do anything with it. Dude, I would just, because I'm
Right,
the way I play half the time is just like, oh, I do 2 damage here, I'll do 3 damage here. And that's such a bad trade off, right? Like that just, it doesn't work
right.
out in your favor. But I like that he has stalwart. I think that makes him a more interesting villain, because you can't stun him, you can't stop him from scheming against you. So for those who flip down, I think this is gonna be a more interesting hero or a villain to fight against, because you
Right.
can't flip all the time, right? It's going to mess you up. It's going to end poorly for you. So as someone who doesn't flip a lot, this doesn't excite me as much. But for those who like to flip and play the game correctly, I think there's more there for it. So, okay. So next we have the Mansion Attack, which right off the bat, this felt like an updated, better version of the Wrecking Crew to me. I got the same exact vibes with the different main schemes, their main schemes, the different main
Yep.
schemes. So I got the same vibes as that, literally 4 things. Now I know people don't like the Wrecking Crew. I get it. I think it's fine, but this does feel like just an updated version of it that's more difficult than the Wrecking Crew is.
Yeah, and if I understood it correctly, I think that you're playing each one of them one at a time, and it's kind of they have So you have the villain that you're fighting
Hmm.
against, and then you've got whatever is going on with the different part of the mansion, and it's kind of cool depending on how the game play out.
Right.
When I first played this, it may be totally different than the way you play this
Right.
scenario, and I think the variability of how you're able to determine who you go up against is what makes this appealing, in my opinion. Because these four guys, I think Blob and Toad are pretty uh, I guess relatively popular
Yeah.
villains. So I don't care that much about Avalanche, and Pyro has
Mhm.
always been kind of a interesting one, depending on the variation that you get from whatever medium you've seen them in. But I think that uh, yeah, like it's in that same mold of Wrecking Crew and even this last one, the
Sinister
Sinister
Six.
Six.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's a little different than those. So I think that this one, now that Fantasy Flight has kind of gotten their rhythm of getting some variability and uniqueness
Mhm.
to their villains, I think that this one will definitely stand out over those two. I really think that this one, um, man, and I hope I'm not putting my foot in my mouth with this one, but I really think this one may actually outshine those, like just by a little bit.
No, yeah, I agree with you. And like when I compare it to what was it, Wrecking Crew, I guess I should say that's important that I think it's based off of Wrecking Crew, but because of the experience and what they have, it'll be better than Wrecking Crew, right? Like I just feel like the
Right.
overall
Oh, 100%.
foundation is the same, but it'll just be a better version of that.
Right.
So I mean I'm somewhat excited for it. I feel like again, you're right. We just had this with Sinister Six, except Sinister Six was a little bit different how it worked. Obviously, this will be different how it works. So I just get the same vibes. But I think you're right. They will change this up enough to make it interesting. But yeah, I think this was probably the one I was most interested for. And maybe I just have a thing for fighting multiple villains, right? Maybe that's my thing that I'm into now. I don't know. But all right, let's jump in to the very last one, Magneto, who um when I first read through him, I was like, he seems fine. Like he actually seems like not as hard as Venom Goblin, which maybe is a good thing. Um but yeah, I didn't see anything that like really stood out too much where I was like, oh, this is like super different, but we all know he's gonna be stupidly tough, right? He's gonna be hard. He has to be. So what are your thoughts on Magneto?
Um, I think this he reminds me of a Galaxy Most Wanted villain. I think
Mm,
that he's going to be fast. Like
yeah.
he's going to be getting those magnet counters, and once he because you depending on how you shuffle the deck, and I don't know how many of these magnet
Mhm.
cards will be in the deck, but if I understood him correctly, he'll gain these counters, and when he have a certain amount, then you have to discard cards from the encounter deck
Yeah.
until you get to a magnet one, reveal it, and then take the magnet counters off, and it's a rinse repeat. And my man's kind of hefty. I think
Yeah.
he's got about 20 HP or something like that per person.
18.
So
Yeah.
let me
Yeah.
double
Yeah.
check.
For
18. So
stage one.
he's
Yeah.
so not only are you dealing with Asteroid M going crazy, you got
Mhm.
him that's soaking up so much damage. He's got that card magnetic bubble where he can gain retaliation.
Mhm.
And then he also has it's similar to Rhino, where when Rhino had five with his suit, where
Mhm.
you had to deal 5 damage with Magneto, I think it's 8. So like it's gonna be wild. So you're gonna have to find a way to rush him down and to try to deal with all these cards that he have that's going to keep you from either doing damage to him or mitigate the amount of damage that you're doing to him while he's sitting there rushing through the encounter deck like crazy. So I think he might give people some problems.
Mhm.
He's definitely a final boss.
Yeah.
And he's steady, as if like
I,
that, because all this wasn't enough. So he's
yeah.
steady. So I think that so you have ways to try to slow him down, but it's a lot of energy that's dedicated to that. So you're going to have to pick and choose how you either slow him down, or do you just rush him? Do you
Yeah.
just Gamma Slam, Hulk Smash him, and
Exactly.
then it rinse and repeat? So yeah, he's gonna be interesting. I'm excited. I'm actually excited for Magneto.
I think you're right. I think my gut says that it'll be a lot of cards like what is that, wrapped in metal and electromagnetic
Yeah,
blast, where it affects you and not necessarily boosts him as much. Which I think if they do stuff like that is super awesome, right? They're like, I'm just
yeah,
dealing with stuff on me. It's like, okay, how do I get through this? I think that's a different take on Rodin, Loki, and Venom Goblin, who have been more about, okay, they get really beefy, and then you're just like, I guess
right.
I'm rushing them. Well, I can't rush them when I can't, thwart, attack, defend, or recover. So I like that aspect of him
Right.
more. But yeah, he is definitely the most excited villain I think I am for sure. And I mean, he's gonna be tough, right? We know he's gonna be tough. But it's funny
Oh
because
yeah.
like on paper, when I first glanced through him, I was just like, no, I don't think he looks that bad. And then once you start reading through some of these other cards, you're like, oh. Yeah, you're right. It
Yeah.
depends on how many magnetic cards there are. Like if it's all
Yeah,
magnetic
man.
cards,
Where Quicksilver at?
yeah, right. Jeez.
Yeah, maybe after this box, Quicksilver get out my sell back to the store tier.
Oh, that's rough. That's a rough tier. I like it though.
Yeah, man. I sell them back so quick.
Oh man. All right. So that is the box. Let's jump in to our announced heroes, right? And the very first one, I'm
Yep.
I'm gonna let you take away with this one because I have a gut
Oh
feeling that
man.
you are a fan of our first hero that was announced, which is Cyclops.
Oh man, don't make me take up your whole evening.
That's all right.
So what I love about Cyclops, he takes an aspect. No, let me not use aspect. He takes a mechanic of the game and makes it extremely interesting.
Mhm.
And that's with tactic. You don't see the keyword tactic all that often in this game. And I think that he's taking something and kind of defining it.
Mhm.
So with tactics, if you look at a lot of the tactic cards, they don't really mesh into like a mold.
Mhm.
They're just tactic cards by name. But what he is doing is taking tactics and forcing them to be attachments to where they affect whoever it's on.
Mhm.
So, and I know that that's the point of attachments, but with him is definitely a way to kind of debuff heroes, I mean, villains or
Mhm.
minions, and it allows for these extra kickers to happen. So he's applying kickers to these different minions and villains. So he have that one where he attaches to somebody,
Mhm.
and whoever defeats them, they draw two cards. He's got the one where he's attaching something to someone, and you doing extra damage to them. He's got one that he can attach to him, and they do one less damage. So he's out here doing what he can to help out the table. And I love that card that he have where he's the field commander, I think it's called, where he always goes first. So
Yeah.
he can get those cards out. And he's got the 2-1-2 stat line, so he's not about to do a lot of damage unless he's optic blasting, right? And that gives him the opportunity to either optic blast a minion that's about to terrorize the table, or he can get out the right tactics out there to help swing the game into the hero's favor. So I love that they took somebody who's known for his ruby quartz uh, shades
Mhm.
and his leadership and made that into a hero. And I think that they did a phenomenal job with it. I'm excited to be able to get him to the table. I'm looking forward to being able to do so much damage with the optic blast, to be able to hit somebody for 11 with piercing and overkill.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's just gonna be so nasty. So I'm excited, and I'm hoping um, that we get to see this redefined tactic become more of a more of a strategy in this game, to where they're releasing tactic cards down the
Mhm.
road. So it's not just these tactic cards that we're dealing with Cyclops, but they're tactic cards that anybody can use. Of course, they will favor him depending on the aspect that they're in, but it gives them the opportunity to bring life to a part of the game that nobody cared about, right? So I think that if you ask somebody to name the most popular tactic card in the game, they couldn't do it.
Right. Right.
All I can think of right now is tactic team. I mean, tag team. So
Yep.
it's like there's not a lot of them. So hopefully this gives opportunity to bring a keyword that don't mean much in the game right now and make it mean something to
Hmm.
where they're debuffs or it's kind of like the preparation cards, right? Like they have a purpose on being on the table and they actually fit the theme of preparation. Hopefully we get that with tactic cards that we can have these opportunities to put stuff on the villain or minions or even on yourself if
Yeah.
you put something on yourself and it's like if you defeat a minion this turn, draw a card or something like that, right? So I think the sky's the limit for that. Cyclops will only benefit from that.
Hmm.
The whole hero diaspora can benefit from it.
Hmm. It's funny too because I did my preview on Cyclops, and I immediately I wasn't that impressed because I think too much like a solo player, and I think that was my problem. Because I'm looking at these cards, and like I like the idea of like upgrades on villains and like minions and stuff, and I was like,
Right.
okay, like I like that mechanic, but until I forgot who I was talking to was talking to me about this. Like, no. They're like, think more outside the box. You are a leader of literally the table, not in the game, like the table
Yeah.
itself as a multiplayer. And when I realized that, I finally realized that okay, that's what they're trying to do. Like, you are truly the leader of the physical game you're playing, not in the game. And that yes, you're putting out these upgrades, and the attachment gets -1 attack. Well, that's not just for you. That's helping you out. It's helping your teammates out.
Right.
And once I realized
Oh, that
that,
was beautiful.
yeah, it's to me. Once that was told to me, I was like, okay, I get it more. Like this is more interesting. Like maybe I won't love him for solo, but yeah, for multiplayer, I
Right.
think it's really cool that like whoever is Cyclops is. I mean, he's the leader of the X-Men, right? You are the legit leader. Like this is all and out like the leader. So I think putting it in that perspective made me appreciate him a lot more and get me a bit more excited for him. Because yeah, a lot of these things like when they increase the damage the attack enemy takes by 1 or whatever is one of the things. I was like, oh, that's like 1 each turn, and I'm gonna blast it off and whatever. And then someone was like, well, no, like if you have like a table of 4, like that's 4 extra damage now you put out for that
Right.
1. And I was like, oh yeah, no, that could be a really good card. So it was one of those things I felt like because I look at everything from a solo lens. I didn't give Cyclops a fair enough treatment in my mind until I started
Mm.
thinking about no. Marvel Champions, the game, even though we all play it solo and enjoy it, it is a team based game, right? It's a co op game, and he embodies that. And I was like, all right, I guess he's all right.
I'll take that, man. I'll
Yeah.
take that. I'll take that. That was a beautiful explanation because I didn't even think of it that way in terms of him being the leader of the table. Like I just saw it as more of him just being the tactician.
Hmm. No.
But I think that's a good point because I don't think of the game in terms of solo. Like I rarely play this game one handed. I always play two handed, and
Yeah.
I think that does change your perspective on things. And I know we keep bringing it back to our boy Hulk, but I think that that's where he struggles, right?
Yeah.
He struggles in solo, so people have that perspective of him. But bringing it back to Cyclops, I think that yeah, I think that the more people at the table, the better he is.
Hmm.
And I think even at 2 people, he's going to be phenomenal
Yeah.
because you have to remember he also is about to ride with a bunch of X-Men in his
Yeah.
deck. So that even applies to all the other attachments that he have. He's probably throwing stuff on them too. So
Yep.
there's it's going to get crazy. So I'm excited for him, man. So excited.
And that's definitely, you're right. That's one of those things where as the game progresses, because to go back to the Guardians box, this was always, I think somebody on Discord brought this up that the biggest issue with the Guardians box was starting off with Groot and Rocket, and they depend so much on cards that come out after they were there. So people were like, they're terrible heroes. They're not that good, and the box was insanely hard. That once you compare it to everything else, you're like, oh, they're actually pretty good. I think Cyclops. Now we're in that mindset that like, no, heroes will get better with more stuff that comes out for them. Cyclops is going to keep getting better and more interesting. So I'm appreciative of that. And I think that's going to be good.
Yeah, the more X-Men that come out in aspects, the better he gets.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So next up is Phoenix, my favorite, my absolute favorite. She's my girl. She's so phenomenal. I have a secret crush on her. Don't tell my wife. She's not listening. She never listens to this, so it's fine.
This guy.
But yeah, Phoenix, man. So again, going back to the original when I started doing my videos and I saw Cyclops and I was not super impressed. I saw Mutant Genesis. I was not super impressed. I was having panic attacks because I knew Phoenix was coming, right? We
Ooh,
all knew she was coming. And I was like, just
yeah.
don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. And then I saw the announcement. I was like, okay, this is good. I like where this is going. I like this Phoenix Force, right? I like the fact that you basically can go quote unquote crazy with power, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just it becomes a whole different game. And I know a lot of people are arguing, well, why wouldn't you just want to be on the more aggressive side, right? The unleashed side. And to me, the balance is going to come down to when you get burning hunger, right? Burning hunger is her obligation. That's going to get out Dark Phoenix and consume the world. And I think you're basically game over at that point. Like you cannot pay attention to the villain. I know we talked about, or not we, but it's been talked about in the past where, was it Nemesis is like some of them are really hard, some are really easy. I think this is going to be almost impossible Nemesis, and that's why the balance is there with Phoenix. I think that's what's going to make her interesting. That yes, okay, maybe I can flip her over, but I got to work to get her back because that obligation might be coming. Right, Shadows of the Past might be coming, but it's work to flip back over. You can't just do it. So a lot of people I saw initially were just like, well, no, just flip her over to the Unleashed side. It will be fine. And I don't think it will be. And I think a lot of people are actually probably going to dislike her off the bat because they're going to flip her over. The game's going to end and they're going to be like, her Nemesis is too strong. It's not fun or whatever. And I think that's what it's going to be. But I love everything about her. I love her design. I'm really excited for it. And Psionic, I think, will be what is it, the new Mystic, right? Essentially, I think that's what they're gonna probably gear up for. I know you're not a fan, but maybe
Oh.
you'll like this one. It's kind of cool. Like it's not too bad.
I think that they did her justice with. That's funny. I think they did her justice by
Yes, they
putting
did do
her
her
in
justice.
justice. Yeah, that just hit me right there. But I think that's where she's going to excel
Yeah.
because she seems like an interesting build hero. Surprisingly,
Mhm.
like I think with her having those counters and being able to use them as wild resources, will be able to get those kickers on certain cards. So like lay down the
Mhm.
law. Concussive blow. Like she should be able to do things to be able to confuse the enemy. And she has that 3-1-2 stat line, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
she starts off with three um
Three.
thwarting.
Yeah.
And even if you attach heroic intuition on her to where she has that +1 thwart, now she's sitting at a 4-1-2 stat line. And then if she flips over to unleash, she's sitting at a 2-3-2,
Yep.
which is crazy. So I think that she's got a decent stat line regardless of how you cut it. But I think the hard part is going to be balancing that restrained and unleashed on
Mhm.
knowing, you know. I don't know if you play League of Legends, but I
I
always
have.
for whatever reason, Marvel Champions reminds me so much of League of Legends. But she reminds me of Rise
Mm.
because when he changed, when they reworked him, he have that kind of, or maybe Nar would be a better
Mm.
fit, where you have that form change that's almost forced, and you just got to deal with it for that time frame. And I think that with her, she's going to have to, you're going to have to try to balance that as best as you can. Like you say, that when that obligation roll out, like you on the clock, like
Yeah.
you are
Yeah.
on the clock because Dark Phoenix is coming to that table. She's practically a villain.
Yes.
She's coming in with 12 hit points. I was like, man, she a Ronin Jr., bro. Like
Yeah.
that's crazy. So I think now, like in that in the uh what do you call it? The side scheme that she comes out with is permanent.
Yep.
So if you don't take care of that, like you
Game's
just
over.
got another lose condition.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
So normally when Nemesis come out, they make the game a little bit harder. But now it's like, nah, you got a whole another losing condition on the table. You got Dark Phoenix that's trying to take your head off with the villain that's trying to take your head off, and you got a whole side scheme that
Yep.
is practically main scheme 2.0. So
Yep.
I think that um she's extremely interesting. I don't know if she's going to be powerful enough to warrant this kind of nemesis set,
Mm.
but I don't know. Not like you say, and I'm not a huge mystic kind of person. I think Psionic is going that same way,
Yeah.
which is it is what it is. But like I still think that she's interesting enough mechanic wise to be able to pull off some interesting combos. I think she's definitely going to be strong in justice. One can argue aggression. I think that when she's able to go unleashed, she can do some nasty stuff in aggression. So I think that those will probably be her top ones.
Mhm.
Though I wouldn't be surprised if she turned out to be pretty good in protection too.
Yeah, right.
So I'm excited, man. I think that at first I wasn't too excited about it, but the more I read her and the more and more and more I just sat down and tried to think her kit through, she's going to be one of the more popular X-Men, I think, in the game.
Hmm. You know what's funny? So you bring up that that you don't think she's going to be strong enough to take on her nemesis, and I agree. I agree with that 100%. I actually, so I have a wild theory that I don't know if it'll be true, but I haven't said too much. But I believe that these first four heroes, right, Kitty, Colossus, Cyclops, and Phoenix, are all going to be bad pure solo. I think the game wants you to play with other people, and I think that's what they're pushing because X-Men is all
Ooh.
about the team build, right? Like
Boy, look at you.
Thor
Okay.
has his own movie, Captain America has his own movie. They do their own thing. They can all play solo. The X-Men always work as a team. I have a gut feeling, at least with these, I think Wolverine will be the first one that's like a true, like crazy solo good one. But I think all of these are built to play as a team, and they're not focusing on solo with these. It's my wild theory, but I want to see if it holds true.
Ooh.
No.
Boy, look at you. You've been thinking over there.
What else am I gonna do with my life, man? This is all I got.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. So
That's a good theory though, man. I like that.
yeah, I have a gut feeling that that's what they're gonna do. We'll see when it actually comes out. I
Okay.
kind of hope not because I want to play Phoenix pure solo, but I think, unlike you, I don't play a lot. I barely play any two-handed solo, and I think this cycle is going to push me in that direction to do that, which I'm actually excited for, right? I'm excited for the game to make me do new things I haven't really thought about. So it'll be cool if it does that. But yeah, mostly. All right. Last thing. Last thing to cover. Mojo Mania. I, truth be told, I have researched this exactly 5 minutes before we called. And that is the entirety of my research. So let me know your thoughts. What am I looking out for? What am I seeing here? What should I be excited for?
Yeah, I'll try to wrap up my latest video in a few minutes, but I think Magog is going to be the stealer of the show. I think that his scenario mostly comes around uh the trying to win the favor of the crowd.
Mhm.
So each person have a card that is specific to the heroes and the villain, and you're trying to rack up these points to get a cheering crowd. So as soon as you hit, because both sides start off being booed, and then whenever you hit that threshold from being booed, it flips over,
Mhm.
and then you got a certain amount of favor to rack up to win the scenario. If he gets more favor, he wins. If the heroes get more favor, then they win. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they balance out the way that favor can be won with the
Mhm.
crowd. And I think that this is such a unique and interesting scenario that is coming straight out of the box. I think that this might be my favorite one so far that I've read with the scenario packs. So I'm
Mhm.
super excited about it. And then you go into fighting Spiral. If you all have played Marvel versus Capcom 2, she's the chick with like the six arms,
She's Goro,
and got
right?
like
From Mortal
yeah,
Kombat.
with the Viking helmet. She
uh,
was another top tier hero, well, character in that game. And hers is really interesting. You're jumping through these TV shows trying to find her. She's
mm,
running away from you, and you're trying to find her because she's the one that can get you to Mojo. So, she start off the scenario where you can't hurt her, and there's a separate deck that's called the show deck,
okay.
and you do these different actions to reveal cards from that show deck, and you're trying to get this card that lets you know you found her, and when you find her you can flip her over, and that's
Mm,
when you can attack her, and then there's a condition to where she can escape from you again, and then it's rinse and repeat. And so I think that it's an interesting way on not focusing so much on taking damage away from the villain as much as it is kind of taking these chances with putting threat onto a scheme to be able to draw from that deck or whatever the case may be.
mhm,
You're taking some chances on trying to find her, and I think that that's a cool way to do a chase scene. um and then you got Mojo, who is like the hood. He's got a ton of scenarios, not scenarios, modular decks that's that's hanging out on the side, and you got a certain amount of time, a run through of that deck to be able to beat him. So, and he's got a huge threshold
Yeah,
on his main scheme.
25. That's
Yeah, so
insane.
there's ways that you can get threat put on your character, and when you flip down, all that threat go onto the main
Oh,
scheme.
okay.
So there's that's going on, and then um what happens is as the encounter deck is going by, there's an environment card that says spinning and stopped.
Okay.
So as you're going through the encounter deck, it's spinning. So whenever it stops, or whenever you get to the last card on the encounter deck, if there's another modular set to the side, you shuffle it back in and then you
Mm,
flip it back over to the spinning. So he's constantly adding shows to this whole
yeah.
thing that's going on. And if his writers run out of shows to add to this scenario, then you lose. Right.
Okay.
So you're battling essentially against the creativity of his writers while fighting him. So it's a cool it's as ridiculous as the character. But
Yeah.
I think that it's such an interesting, like I wish this was in
Yeah.
Mutant Genesis. But at the end of the day, I think that this this pack I think will overtake Green Goblin as the more popular
Mm,
scenario packs that's been released solo. So right now, I think Kang is a super close second, but I still think people tend to favor Green Goblin. I think Mojo might come in and take the cake. I think that those are two extremely, three, excuse me, extremely unique uh
like
they're
villains.
unique
Yeah.
scenarios, and I think that after like I think it's something fun to break the monotony of just fighting a villain all day, and I think that that's what this pack is doing, is allowing you to fight, but it's not just as simple
Mm.
as just getting HP down. So I'm excited. I'm super excited for it.
I mean, I love just like the names of some of these environments, man. Dial M for Mojo, right? A play on Dial M for Murder. The Game of Thrones one, the CSI one, the Law and Order one. Like this is hilarious. This is
It's
fantastic. So
amazing. It's so funny. It's so ridiculous, but I think that's just beautiful fan service, man. I
yeah.
think that they're doing a good job with the creativity of this. So, I'm super excited. I think the rest of this year is definitely it's gonna be nice, man, because we got Mutant Genesis coming out next month
Mm,
with Cyclops and Phoenix, and then we know Wolverine is coming out at some point. So that leaves room for maybe one or two more X-Men. So
yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. It'll be interesting to see who comes out. The rumor is Storm. Storm's next, so we'll see if that's what actually happens. Um, but yeah, no, this was good, man. This was good hanging out with you. This was good talking to you. I feel more excited about this cycle now, so I appreciate your positivity and talking to me about this. So thank you,
Hey,
man.
man, free of charge, bro.
All right, man. Well, you take care. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today, Maurice.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you for having me on, bro.